Yes, a friend of mine just wanted to talk to me for a second. Yeah. Now, these constitutional violations is found a federal court is required to the scope of the remedy. The goal is to restore the plaintiffs to the position they would have occupied had they not been subject to the unconstitutional action. Now, exactly what federal court or Supreme Court of what nation is going to actually restore myself back to the, excuse me, uh, the goal is to restore myself as a plaintiff to the position that I would have occupied had they not been subject to the unconstitutional court issuance of a protection order where I was not given any notice or opportunity to be heard over 7 years ago. Yeah. Now, not only are you obstructing my right to sue you, I'm thinking the Supreme Court needs a few lawsuits of their own. Now, here it is again, reiterated that the remedial powers of the federal courts are called forth by violations and are limited by the scope of those violations. Once a constitutional violation is found, yes, a federal court is required to tailor the scope of the remedy to fit the nature and extent of the constitutional violation. The goal is to restore the plaintiffs to the position they would have occupied had they not been subject to unconstitutional action. Oh. Now, is there any federal judges in the United States that know about this? This state-sponsored terrorism where you serve individuals in public libraries to terrorize them, torment them, intimidate them, and embarrass them in front of the other library patrons. Ooch. The use of fraud and forgery. Oh, is there really some stupid reason why you don't think it's a constitutional violation to not require notice and opportunity to be heard? It's not a constitutional violation to use fraud on the court to issue court orders. It is not a constitutional, these rights that are guaranteed, the equal protections of the law, privileges and immunities. Pooh. Now, um, I'm kind of thinking, okay, that they actually are constitutional violations. Now, I know you're used to issuing traffic citations, criminal charges, prosecuting attorney, but who is it that issues the constitutional violation? A federal court is required. Now, Dayton case, yes, cumulative violations. On these, a district-wide transportation, reversing the Supreme Court. Reversing the Supreme Court reiterated the remedial powers of the federal court are called forth by violations and are limited by the scope of their violations. These federal courts that haven't contacted me, are there any federal judges or Supreme Court judges of any state? Now that would be state courts. Those are not federal courts. Yes, these federal courts where they're employees of the United States federal fucking government. Are there any judges in any federal court of the United States that are aware of any violations and their jurisdiction as authority is limited by the scope of those violations? And once they've identified a constitutional violation, the federal court is required to tailor the scope of the remedy, yes, to fit the nature and extent of the constitutional violation. 1560, Dayton BD Board of Education versus Brinkman. 1561 concurred on the basis that the violations found did not justify the remedy imposed, asserting that the methods of proof utilized in Keys were still valid. Now, somebody, well, terrorism, yeah, state sponsored. Cyber. There's nobody in any federal court of the United States that has any knowledge of any constitutional violations. Why don't you have my sons call me? And Marilyn, there could be certain constitutional violations in having my sister hold Legina and then putting a picture of it in a Rotarian newsletter. Her equal protections, her rights as a citizen. Yeah. I was wanting to see if she wanted to work out after work from 3:30 to 4:30. I'm going to need a volunteer that wants to come the office off me. Pooch. Now, today, okay, I don't want to sleep in inflatable outfit. See, I have a problem. Yes. I've got about $1.85 in my pocket, and I thought I'd take a shower tomorrow. I'm going to need 15 more cents, and I think the batteries are dead on the air pump that I've been using to inflate it every day. And I'm just a day away of not being able to get $2 and approximately 16 cents to buy new batteries at the Goodwill. Now, I have a lot of personal problems that I thought you should know about that I'm going to have to try to find $2 and 31 cents tomorrow so as to be able to take a shower and buy some batteries. Then I'm almost out of tobacco, and I know the Seventh-day Adventists are a big proponent. They said almost 5 million citizens of the world die from tobacco smoking. But 5.3 million die from inactivity? Yes. I didn't really believe their statistics. Now, when you think about 7.5 billion people, and then the total percentage that smoke, they probably are right that there are 5 million individuals dying from smoking every day. Not every day, that would be almost every year. Yes. But this whole concept of not doing anything being worse than smoking, I didn't believe it.